catch up this morning because we're going to talk all things important for professional services businesses. You're going to cover some overviews in terms of business planning. I'm going to talk about nitty-gritty marketing activities that can make a difference to sales this month.
Great to be with you this morning, Zoran. Yeah, certainly look forward to the discussion. I look forward to actually covering off on the types of issues or challenges, dare I say, that professional services firms, notably legal services firms, encounter, if you like, as they go through growth and wanting to achieve that growth. Let me start, Zoran, by introducing the concept of business transformation. So I guess any business goes through transformation on a consistent basis, if you like. Some businesses do it better than others. In the legal services space, given my history, there seems to be certainly some opportunities for businesses to further leverage transformation, and it has been a hot topic in more recent times. So what I want to cover off today is specifically business transformation within legal services businesses, the factors, if you like, that people should consider as they go through that particular transformation process within their own businesses.
So Mario, where do you start with all of this stuff?
So, very good question. I guess it all comes back to focusing on two key areas, and the key areas that I would consider businesses need to focus on first is the area of operational efficiency and I guess the operational framework that they have in place. And the second key part of that is team enablement. So focusing on those two areas will give a business a great opportunity to understand, is it operating in a way that is generating the right outcomes for the business from an efficiency perspective and from an client engagement perspective? Therefore, what's driving businesses to operate in a particular way that brings about the desired results, not only for themselves, but also for their clients? That's quite critical, because if you don't have that right, you'll tend to find that you're doing things in a double up way, in a triple up way. You're sort of investing a lot of time in doing tasks where you could be investing some of that time in other tasks. That's really driving that efficiency, if you like, that productivity. The second component is team enablement. And I've worked with many businesses where there is certainly opportunities for improvement when it comes to what people do within businesses, clarification around their roles, them understanding exactly how they can participate and contribute to the business's success, but also their personal success, which again ultimately brings about a client success outcome as well. Understanding how individuals within a business, within a team, contribute, in my view, is also something that has got room for improvement, and certainly buy-in from staff make a massive difference to the outcomes across the board.
So Mario, I understand everything that you've said. That's critical information, but how do you start from the start?
Well, look, Zoran, I guess I'd go right to the point of plans, business plans, and does a business have a business plan? And ultimately, I'm sure I'd get the answer from every business that they do. I guess the critical part of that is, though, how is that business plan being implemented? And I guess, how is that business plan documented? In some cases, I've actually found that there is no documented business plan. A business plan that focuses on goals, the objectives of the business, the time frame within which those goals and objectives are to be achieved, and obviously the content within the business plan, providing, if you like, dare I use the word story, as to how the business will direct its efforts, investment, achieve business plan outcomes and objectives. Do you have, or asking the question, do you have a business plan? Is that business plan documented? Is that business plan disseminated across the business in a way where people can buy in? I tend to find that those that have documented business plan have much better congruency across what individuals within the business do. So it goes back to that operational efficiency and just the mechanics of the business operating, and the staff being enabled to ultimately understand that with the efficiencies, the operational efficiencies that they're leveraging, they're going to be able to deliver the business plan because they know exactly what the business plan requires them to do.
All right, so you've basically outlined the bones of a business plan. So how do you actually start from the start? What's the next part of it all?
So you've got to work through the content. So you've really got to take a step back, and a lot of people talk about different concepts. One that I tend to focus on the most is the practice of law versus the business of law. And the business plan side of things is very much the business of law side of things. And I do think the two things are quite different. In the sense that one is just being great at providing legal services, undertaking legal services for clients and utilizing your skill set. The second part of that is the business of law, and that is focusing on the business. When you look at business plans, ultimately you need to consider whether the people within the business are best placed to have a really good look at what the business is able to produce based on how it is set up and structured at the moment, and what are most probably some of the gaps or areas that could be improved. And I think the ability for an external person, an advisor, to come in and to support, I guess, the business owners, the leadership team, to have a real honest look at what's there, I think can go a long way to introducing concepts, but also being quite frank in the assessment of what the business plan needs to look like going forward. And there might just be some interesting things that come up that otherwise reinforce what the leadership team or the owners were thinking, but hadn't yet most probably put in the business plan. Or there might actually be things that they find to be areas that should definitely be in the business plan that they maybe hadn't otherwise thought of at that stage.
What would you say are the pitfalls to avoid, or what not to do when you embark on really a really critical part of planning for your business's future?
You don't want to leave anything off the table. So I guess what you want to do is ensure that you've got everything on the table. Things that maybe don't quite stack up or make sense initially may actually lead to remaining off the table, but it actually may reinforce what you do in other areas. So there's ways to even further strengthen the fact that where you are heading is actually the right place, and that's on the basis that you don't want to head in another direction. But if you don't put everything on the table, I think you may miss something. So it's not just about looking for the shiny objects, as they say, or trying to focus on the positives. Understanding sometimes, call it the weaknesses or the negatives, that is in itself quite a critical part, in my view, to ensure that the business plan is thorough and fully covers off on all aspects. So yeah, it's sometimes on what you don't think you need to do as being just as important as the things that you know you need to do.
I certainly found a lot of value in terms of what you talked about there. And for the clients that you've worked with, and clients that I've worked with as well, it's a big step to start that business planning process from, yellow post-it notes around the office to actually sitting down and doing the sort of things that you've suggested there. For me, I think this is a great segue to something I wanted to talk about, which was, once you've got your business plan and you've got your activities, one of the key things for any business is new business opportunities. How do you make sure every month, month in, month out, you've got activities that are designed to generate new prospects to come into the business?
To be honest, sorry, that's absolutely a key area, if you like, for that growth aspect of legal services firms. Where to find the next client, how to leverage the existing client base, who does that work within the firms, who does that responsibility or accountability fall onto. I'd love to cover that off with you. If you could certainly provide some insights, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think it is important that, especially for professional services firms, how do we get a system that generates prospects that can be nurtured and then handed off to whoever in the organization that particular lead needs to go to? So what I want to review is, how do we build a lead generation program? How do we make sure that it's consistent and almost automatic? If you do this, it'll take your business from that stop-start sort of mentality that a lot of businesses have. They start it, then they get tied up with work, then they remember it once they look at what's in the funnel for the next month. First thing to think about is the channels that we should use and how do we fuel prospect lead generation. And all of it starts with content, basically an area called content marketing. What we need to do is we need to develop content that is available to our prospects whenever they're available, whenever they want to look at it. The content that we develop has to be relevant to them And it also needs to be relevant to where they are in the sales cycle, whether at start, information gathering, or whether they want to read something about the credentials of what your service or what your business can offer. And that content, frankly, is hard to develop and hard to develop consistently. So once we've developed that content, we can't just use it once off. We have to make sure that we reuse it and we refresh it and we keep publishing it. They're the key sort of points. And when I say it's available to your clients or your prospects, I'm not saying that they're searching the internet looking for content. It's got to be available and it's got to come up in their basically their news feeds.
So Zora, when you talk about that content, obviously, which is critical, law firms will tend to, have content that they produce, put up on their websites and things like that. You're obviously taking this to the next level. Yeah, it's a lot more sophisticated, no doubt. What you're wanting to, have law firms consider. Who Zoran, takes the lead on this? I guess where does the investment of effort need to come from a human side, noting that I guess a lot of what you're talking about is obviously, technology based or automation based.
You really don't muck around. You get to the point, which is critical. And really, that point that you've raised is where all of these things can fall over before they even start. Yes, every professional services firm will have a news section on their website, and it'll have content about what's happening and things like that. But what I'm talking about is a concerted effort, and the only way to do it, I would suggest, is to, number one, you need to have a content team. So you need to have someone at the head, and I would suggest that's a senior person in the organization, to say they're going to set the tone and they're going to set the topics. They're going to say, these are the areas that our credentials lie, and these are the things that I want to talk about because I know that will resonate with the people that we want to talk to. And so, right at the start, there's a leader of the project, and it has to be someone who has the seniority to expect results from the team members. The first thing you're going to do is define who our prospects are. What are the characteristics? What sort of client do we want? What size business? What will they be interested in? So that's the first step. And then once the content strategy has been developed, we're going to develop, for example, a series of case studies on our success that will reconfirm our credentials. And we're going to do a series of thought leadership papers based on trends that we see in the industry. The team members that are going to write and research have to be allocated those tasks. They have to be given a time frame to develop the first cut of those pieces of content. And I would say, let's do this on a 3-week cycle, something like that. So that first meeting is who's the players. The second part of that is developing the content strategy, and then someone has to develop it and research it. And then it comes back to the group for a sign off. That would be the most critical aspect in all of this. Now we've got the content being developed. The next part is how do we publish it? By far, the best, highest ROI channel for anyone is going to be social channels. Because we're talking professional services, there's no point to look anywhere else except LinkedIn. So the idea is that you will develop this content and then you will start sharing it with the people that you're connected to. The second part of that is you will have, each person will have, hundreds of connections probably on LinkedIn. What you need to do is start reaching out to new contacts, and that's just a process of, again, we know who we want to talk to. We find those people on LinkedIn, and it's a very easy thing to do. LinkedIn has help topics that will help you work out how to find and connect to these people. You need to have a script that says, for everyone who's doing this activity, this is how you do it. This is the words that we want in terms of the connection requests. And then once you connect to people, you need to get them following your page. I would suggest that you want to have a target of a couple thousand people following your company page, and all the team members, again, do your connection requests, get your new connections to follow the company page on LinkedIn. And then this content that we've talked about, you have to publish it regularly. You can't expect prospects to be searching the internet just looking for something that you've published. You got to be presenting into it. So the idea that we develop these thought papers, these case studies, all that sort of stuff, once they're published, you want to start to cycle them through your social channels probably once every few days. To be really frank, I'm saying once every few days because this might be a new thing for some of the people that are watching this. The real thing is a couple times each day. That's where you want to get to.
So Zoran, obviously social media is the new area of engaging with the marketplace. Those that aren't leveraging that, what are they missing out on?
Again with the direct questions, Mario, it's good to just get to the point. And the point here is you are missing out on dollars. You're missing out on new opportunities for clients. Thinking about this as an owner of a business, I like to imagine that your competitors are doing best practice, and that's what you're missing out on. Whether they are or not, you should be ready for best practice because it leads directly to new business opportunities. All this stuff about publishing content, the next part of it is you need to see who engages with your content and you have to develop sales opportunities. Okay, so this is not marketing fluff. This is directly leading to a sales opportunity. And what I mean by that is you've got publishing happening regularly through your social channels. You've got people that are connecting with you and seeing what you're doing. You're reinforcing your credentials. You're reinforcing that you're ahead of the game in terms of thinking about pain points already that your clients or prospective clients might be experiencing. And the next part is to say, okay, we're going to have exactly what we're doing here. We're going to have an event. We invite people to come along and talk about these particular business pain points or business trends. Your client thinks they're coming to an event. From your business point of view, you've got hot prospects that you can follow up with. That's the point to all of this. Someone who makes the effort to join a webinar and listen to what you're saying, they've basically stuck their hand up and said, I need help, whether they know it or not. And that's your sales opportunities. You do that once a month, you do that once every 3 weeks, you're introducing a new funnel of opportunities to your business, which other people don't have. And everybody's on this. Everybody is starting to realize the power of social channels and prospecting, and that's what you're missing out on.
Thanks for the insight, Zoran. Very critical to ensure that professional services firms, legal services firms have the right structures in place when it comes to that marketing side of things as well. Clearly, a link between business planning and the activities around marketing being a key component of those business plans, and that business of law is certainly coming through what you suggested in our discussion today. So yeah, thanks again for the insights.
No, it's been fun, Mario, and really interesting to hear what you said, and I enjoyed linking the marketing front end to it as well. So I'll leave a link at the bottom of this post just so that if anyone's interested to listen to our next session, which will be talking professional services, business planning, operations, and marketing for the future, you can just click on the link and just register so we can update you when that happens next.
Thanks again.
All right, thanks.